Today I have the popular liberal streamer Destiny Stephen Bennell II fighting Hasan Piker over stochastic terrorism. Interesting thing, though, is that a very large creator who kind of covers normie news topics actually covered this. His name is Phil DeFranco. And I think it's wild that we have a normie covering this drama, but it's funny that he's covering this drama. So let's go ahead and check it out.
This is Hasan Piker, Ethan and Hila Klein, Destiny situation. It was one of the most requested stories over on the text line, and it's crazy. With many saying it's gone past the line of drama, and this is something else. Well, this mix of podcasters and political commentators, there is more history here than what's happening now. This latest controversy appears to start when you had Hasan Piker making a remark that many believe targeted Hila Klein.
Any kind of violence that Israeli settlers or the Israeli military experiences in the West Bank is literally legal, okay? It is legal resistance against an occupying military force. I cannot repeat this enough. Israel is...
We're probably going to watch this again, but I think that if there were settlers who were illegally occupying, you can get into a gunfight with them and you can evict them if you're a part of a sovereign nation. I also think that you could probably, if another country is invading your sovereign territory, you can get into a gunfight with them. However, the implication here is that you can shoot with like unarmed women and children in the face, right? Because that's what happened on October 7, 2023. That's something that Hasan and his ilk have done apologia for over the past 2 or 3 years. That's something that he's neglecting to mention within this clip. So, you know, that's where I think that the real, where it rubs me wrong is not that I disagree in principle. It's that he's not making caveats for the way that you should treat civilians. And we've seen the way that Hasan Piker's, the organizations that he's a fan of, we've seen the way that they treat civilians. And it's not great.
Is actually engaging in an apartheid, which is a crime in and of itself. Israel's doing a genocide in Gaza and an apartheid in the West Bank. 2 crimes in and of itself. And every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these.
Our first ban of the day. Unknown says, okay, all I got to say, Israel gets free healthcare and free military aid paid by us. Americans don't even have that. Anyone who is Israel first, not America first, is a valid target traitor. So actually, in the middle of a conversation, we're in the first 2 minutes of it, unknown, you fucking schizophrenic, sorry for using the F-bomb so early. This is a family show after all. But you're saying a valid target traitor? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You're a schizophrenic. What do you mean valid target? You mean you can shoot him? You mean you can stab him? You mean you can legally prosecute them for being traitors to the United States of America? You have schizophrenia. Genocide is worse than October 7th. Rub me wrong. Our tax money being used for Israel. They came here to mess up our local politics. You know what? Go fuck yourself. Go play with Hot Wheels. Go do something else. Politics is not for you. Go find in the doctor's offices, right? In the dentist's office. There's those like wooden toys that have like little metal rings that you can push like wooden objects through in order to make them move around. Generally speaking, they're like made for toddlers and shit. I strongly recommend you go play with those because politics is too complex for you. So goodbye. Jesus. Valid traitor target. What a schizophrenic. That is bananas. All right. Sorry. Not for me, okay? I'm not keeping terrorists in my chat. Thank you. Back to the content.
These raids, the violence that the Palestinians engage in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal.
Right, so it appears that he's talking in general about current ongoing violence there, but the call out to your favorite podcaster's wife has gotten a lot of attention because Hila previously served in the IDF. And this also has a little extra background here. Hasan and Ethan and Hila have been very publicly at odds over their clashing views with Israel and Gaza, as well as just, I mean, a number of other things. But in the here and now, you had Hila seeing Hasan's latest remark and accusing him of calling for violence against her specifically, with Ethan then later echoing that, posting a video yesterday saying,
"Why even include a specific person who hasn't served in the military in 20 years? Why does he mix up past and present tense while he's discussing this? You know, is this a responsible use of his words and his platform? Don't you
Absolutely not. But this is where I think eye for an eye morality gets everybody in trouble.
think that even if what you're saying is true and you meant only people on that raid would deserve violence, that invoking a specific person is really appropriate and true? And doesn't that have the risk for provoking the craziest people in your audience
Yes, obviously.
to think that maybe it would be a good idea to kill my wife?
With that, then getting a lot of attention online, and even had the likes of Destiny discussing Hasan's comment in a chat, writing, I honestly think you could perfectly justify attacking/killing Hasan IRL for statements like this. With many then saying that escalated the situation to a whole new level, and you had a number of people calling out Destiny for seemingly condoning violence. With Hasan then also posting /killing Hasan.
Now this is crazy. The reason why it's crazy though, I honestly think you could perfectly justify attacking, killing Hasan IRL for statements like this. No, I don't agree. I don't agree that engaging in stochastic terrorism gives you moral license to be killed, especially not in the United States. And what I was going to say too, DGG did not help Destiny out here because there's like 2 or 3 people in chat who are like, oh yeah, say no more, King. Like, dude, like I get it. You're fucking around. Like I do understand that you're fucking around. But who's to say that for every 10 or 20 people who fuck around, that there isn't one schizo who's like, oh, actually it is morally justified. He is a terrorist apologist. This is effectively a Luigi Mangione situation. You know what? Steven saying this is the license I need in order to smoke Hasan Piker. That's fucking crazy, right? And so while I get it, like turnabout is fair play, eye for an eye and all that bullshit, dude, are we trying to do something electoral or are we trying to do something, are we trying to do something like on the internet, right? What are we trying to do? And I'll talk to Steven about this. We're supposed to be hanging out soon. So I'll talk to him about it, but it's like, what do you want? You know, I'm not trying to be overly mean, or I'm not trying to be overly critical and optics frog about this, although I guess that's my job now. But are we trying to talk to CNN, NPR, normal politicians and talk about alternative media and then get mainstream media and get mainstream political people to talk to alt media and give us money, time, attention, and clout so we can take that money, time, attention, and clout and turn it into real electoral results? Or are we just trying to be crazy on the internet? And if we're being crazy on the internet, then, you know, pop off, King, you know, keep going in this direction. But if we're actually trying to hybridize the real world politics with alternative media politics, then this is bananas, and I think this is bad. You could say the same thing, by the way, without implying that your audience should stochastically attack Hasan for his own stochastic rhetoric. You could just say, hey, this is super fucked up. Anybody with an IQ over 80 could view this as a stochastic call for violence. And actually, I think this is pushing the edge of what should be terms of service. Fuck Hasan and fuck his ilk. Now, that's not going to get you on the Philip DeFranco show, but that is going to communicate the message without having all the optical L's of it, in my opinion. Alexandru Vizishu says, is this bad taste, though? The fact that this is treated almost like a typical YouTube drama is really bad taste and bad in general. Zhreg pointed this out in the stream with Atrioc. Interesting. Bad taste, sure, but it's content and content's fire, and we love super chats and we love ad revenue. So I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't know the difference between, I don't know. I haven't balanced in my mind what's acceptable to try to get the internet's attention versus how do you turn that attention into something productive. I haven't figured out that balance in my mind yet. Melody says, if this was Hasan's first offense, sure, turn the other cheek, but this is like his 50th offense. It's tit for tat at this point. But what are you saying for tit for tat, Melody? Are you saying that DGG should engage in stochastic rhetoric to scare Hasan's community that there's going to be imminent schizophrenic violence? Because I would never do that. Christian Blair says, it's why I somewhat respect Bad Empanada more than Mike from PA. Why? Because he just says it the way that he feels it. Damn, bro. From the South Side, you're going to hang with a confirmed pedophile? Is he a confirmed pedophile? I thought he was flirting with a 17-year-old, not a 7-year-old. And also, I'm kind of joking. I don't even know if that person's 17. Ved Sunil says the drama kind of made Destiny lean into debates more rather than organizing. He's still going to do it, but less. Also, Connor, my Discord fucked up. Could you send me the link I messaged on X? Yeah, Ved Sunil, I got you. I got you. I'm sorry. My inbox is a little bit flooded. That's GGG chat. It's not TOS. Do you know what the fuck I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Or do I have to go through each social media platform and explain every single one of their terms of service? Christian Blair says the turnabout arc is here to stay. Unfortunately, with that said, nobody is attacking, assassinating streamers. This will remain online. You're saying that. What about when somebody actually gets smoked, bro? What about when somebody actually gets smoked? I'll link the Discord momentarily. Anyways, back to it.
On IRL for statements like this, with many then saying that escalated the situation to a whole new level, and you had a number of people calling out
Hold on, I wanna read whatever Mike from PA said. What did Mike from PA said?
statements like this, with many then.
What I want to know is now how a direct call for stochastic terrorism is permissible under Team YouTube terms of service. He has previously called for the deaths of an underage boy, former collaborators, and directly called for the harassment of women who accused him of blah, blah, blah. Mike from PA, number one, you're a pussy. Number two, you're calling that Steven is saying that he's doing stochastic rhetoric in order to get Hasan smoked in context in which Steven is saying Hasan is engaging in stochastic rhetoric. So way to miss the point intentionally, Mike from PA. Once again, why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? Somebody say it in chat. Somebody say what Mike from PA is for Hasan Piker. It involves the word sleeve, but this is a family show, and so I'm not going to say it out loud.
Saying that escalated the situation to a whole new level, and you had a number of people call.
Freda says absolutely insane response to someone telling you how international law works. Every content creator like this is severely mentally unwell. Yeah, sure, Freda. Yep. Ignore the stochastic rhetoric. Absolutely. God, I hate Hasan Piker people. They're so full of shit.
Calling out Destiny for seemingly condoning violence. With Hasan then also posting, this sociopathic cult leader is
Hold on, don't skip that first sentence. Instead of taking care of his son, who has now turned into a Nazi, now Philip DeFranco go off.
actively telling his audience that it's moral to kill me in real life because I said Palestinians have a legal right to resist against an illegal occupying force conducting a raid. When anyone joins an occupying force and participates in a raid in a legally occupied territory, the occupied people have a legal right to defend themselves through armed struggle. With them then also addressing the Destiny situation.
What about the baby settlers, Hasan? Just riddle me that real quick. What do you do with the babies? Is it inappropriate to shoot the babies in the face?
In a stream on Sunday.
That's definitely actionable, I'm pretty sure. It's also weird that this guy gets to have a YouTube account. Like, that is a real death threat. What I'm saying is not a death threat at all. What I'm saying,
to be fair, I view this as stochastic rhetoric, but this is also a descriptive claim. I think you could justify attacking, killing Hasan IRL for statements like this. So he's using stochastic rhetoric in response to stochastic rhetoric.
is what I'm saying is just what the law is right now.
To Hasan arguing that
Can you shoot women and children in the face, Hasan? Can you shoot women and children settlers in the face? Just riddle me that real quick.
he wasn't even trying to give an opinion. He was just discussing international law and acts of resistance. With Hasan then also claiming that many people were taking his initial remark out of context and that he by no means was trying to condone or encourage violence against Ela Klein.
There is no
I don't believe you.
point where I have said violence against someone who is not actively in combat is permissible. I don't believe that. That is illegal. This is not, and also
What about the baby settlers, Hasan?
immoral. It's a big part of the reason why I also advocate against what Israel is doing. I have also specified that IDF veterans are not valid military targets. If someone were to attack Ela Klein right now, of course they should go to jail. What kind of idiocy is this?
So there you even had some who said, hey, I don't think that you were calling for violence against Ela, saying that it's at the very least very weird that you would bring up your former podcast partner.
Because it's stochastic rhetoric.
His wife, in the context of what's happening in the here and now. Also, something you saw is that when people asked him, why are you addressing this? Asking him, why are you feeding into people dragging you into drama? He said,
So it has led to people issuing active death threats to their communities against me. So I think it's a little bit different than just like immature online gossip slop. At what point does it turn into like a real crime? I think this is the point where it has turned into a real crime. But will you consider it to be something beyond online gossip slop when I either get deplatformed or when I get killed? potentially.
With Hasan saying it's the goal of the people going after him to get him banned and fully deplatformed. And in terms of platforms and deplatforming, in the video that Ethan ended up posting on Monday, he took aim at what content Twitch platforms in general, arguing that the site allows too many calls for political violence, including from Hasan. And then with that, suggesting that since neither Twitch or Amazon are doing anything, the sponsors who advertise there should.
If you use Twitch, if you're watching, when you get an ad, write them and say, hey, I would like to know why you're spending directly your dollars to support violent extremism. Why are you supporting a platform that sanctions, protects, safeguards, encourages, promotes language like what Hasan just deployed against Ela?
But ultimately,
Bruh, we're all going to be on Kick, aren't we? We're all going on Kick. Everybody's going to get banned.
that's where we are right now. And in the meantime, I'd really love to know your thoughts on this whole situation. One, just
This is my beef with Phil DeFranco. Let me finish real
in
quick.
general, no matter who you are, but also two, I know there's at least some crossover of who's watching my show and who's watching these other three. So there's people that are more involved and more invested. What are your thoughts with where things are now? But also, I'll say, as we're talking about creators that are speaking out about platforms, we've got to talk about how creators are continuing to
Okay, so I think that's the end of the segment. And with Phil DeFranco, bro, I'm going to compliment him, and then I'm going to criticize him a little bit. Okay, let me find a good angle. This is an okay angle. So Phil DeFranco, God bless you for losing a ton of weight, and God bless you for working out routinely and all that kind of stuff. He posts all that stuff. But I do feel like the Ozempic has sucked all of the fat out of Philip DeFranco. I also feel like the veneers are a little bit crazy. So he just needs to slow down. I'm not saying stop. Keep working out, keep controlling your diet, keep doing whatever you got to do. You already did your veneer thing, so, you're kind of screwed in that regard. But effectively, like, just slow down. Take about 20% off of her because this aesthetic is crazy. Then, in reference to this drama, like, yeah, everybody's fighting for everybody to get banned, which is bad for everybody. Hasan Piker, let's face it, we're going to milk him until the stars burn out. Destiny is going to milk Hasan until the stars burn out. Ethan is going to be in a civil war with Hasan because they're peers in size, I think. And then Ethan and Gila, they're just going to catch shit because they attracted an incredibly progressive audience, and they did not say that Israel, the country, deserves to be wiped off of the face of the map. And so now they're being cannibalized by hyper progressive people the way Jordan Peterson predicted that they would. So all in all, like, we're all kind of reaping what we're sowing, I suppose. And then with Philip DeFranco, I'm just going to express one last frustration. He always covers stories like this, and then he has like the most like centrist, apolitical, like neutral appeal to the audience, where he's like, "Listen, guys, I'm just explaining the facts. What do you think about it?" How about Phil DeFranco? I want to know what you think about it. How about that? How about instead of just covering the news, which I know is how you do your show, what's your moral judgments? What do you think about these statements? What do you think about the implications of these statements? What do you think about platforming and not platforming? I would love to hear some editorializing from Philip DeFranco. In many ways, he's like the Walter Cronkite of the YouTube space because he does not take a firm position on either side. He just presents the information and leaves it up to the audience, which is very annoying. But Kate says, what's the Discord, guys? I just linked it. Christian Blair says, Rose was not a minor. I have no idea what's going on with Rose. And, frankly, we've kind of known that there was some risky shit there for a while, right? At least since November. This is not happening. Says, meanwhile, the IHIP podcast had Hasan on, so their Giga Chad but normie wine mom crowd and Hasan fans swooned with zero understanding of Hasan being a lunatic. Awesome. I'm so ecstatic that Hasan keeps getting platformed on normie platforms so he can grow his schizophrenic Marxist revolutionary base. That's so cool. Fashion 40 says, I know what the F you're saying, but again, he didn't call for it on stream. Okay. And if I text somebody or tweet someone or Discord someone, but then it gets posted in public, doesn't that have the same effect? You guys are making a legalistic appeal where we're talking about morality. So wrong. Kuro says, I think that Disney said was way out of pocket, but if Ethan and Gila had said it, it would have been fair game. This comes after the CPS call in Two Skulls. Sure. I'm not talking about like, okay, turnabout. I've already said this before. Guys. We need to parse out our arguments. I'm appealing to effectiveness. I have said that if the state granted me the power I would abduct Hasan from his house. I would take him to Cuba. I would load him up in a trebuchet. I would fire him into the Caribbean. And then I would station the Coast Guard off of the coast of Florida and Alabama and Georgia. And if Hasan Piker tried to swim for the American coastline, the Coast Guard would have orders to shoot to kill. Okay. That's what I believe. I genuinely think Hasan is an ideological enemy of the United States who is only here through birthright. Okay. He is actually a bad human being and an objective piece of shit. However, the reason why I'm not going to advocate or stochastically suggest that my audience actually kidnap Hasan Piker and fire him from a trebuchet into the Caribbean is because I know that's psychotic. And I'm going to pay a legal and moral consequence for taking that action the same way that whoever listened to my stochastic suggestions for violence would suffer it. That's why I make it absurd. That's why I make it sound like a joke, is because I want you to know that it's a joke. I don't actually want you to kill Hasan Piker. I really don't. So don't do it. However, when it comes to what Steven said specifically in those Discord chats, that does sound like he could be stoking a schizophrenic within his Discord to either harass, stalk, or be violent with Hasan Piker. And that's what I'm saying. When you open up that door, like, what are we doing, guys? Are we trying to, again, this is the thing that I'm asking you. Are we just going to stay online forever and we're just going to milk you for super chats and we're just going to be a bunch of online schizophrenic drama political freaks and that's the limits of our ambition? Or are we going to try to have real world impacts in reference to electoralism, disaster relief, canvassing events, college events, public debates, etc.? Because if we keep being psychos, nobody's going to listen to us, talk to us, want to work with us, etc. Anyways, speaking of super chats, like the stream, it's free. Share it with your friends. Engage in chat. There's lots of cool, interesting people there. Watch the VODs, love the VODs, comment on the VODs. Super chats if you got it. Memberships if you got it. Parasocially love you for being here, etc., etc., etc. We taking bets, says Christian Lawyers? Nope. West Coast Girl says, I'm all for it, but you're going to try to tell Steven what to do? Well, good luck. Yeah. I'll just try to be a moderately positive influence in Steven's life. And when he ends up in prison, I'll just visit him a few times. Biz D says, what kind of debate slurry is on today? Well, number one, the stochastic violence drama in reference to Hasan Piker and Gila Klein and Ethan and Steven. And then later on, we'll be watching Erudite. And then maybe tomorrow we'll do that Jubilee Black Radical versus Black Conservative content. Del Tron says, Mike from the Reich. Mike from the Reich. That's funny. Threatened both Ethan and Destiny, but okay, good one. Yeah, sure, he's full of shit. Thimecat says, it's funny some people really don't understand how violent we as humans can be online. Threats turn into real-life crimes. Well, not yet, but we're getting there. Vivek Ramazani says, things are at a stage where giving people a taste of their own medicine is justified. Take Gavin Newsom, for example. Okay, just keep that energy when somebody gets smoked. That's all I'm saying. Just keep that energy of like, well, turnabout's fair play. Okay, when somebody actually gets shot, just keep that energy. I thought that Destiny's point was with Hasan's logic, Hasan would also be a valid target. Did I misinterpret it? No, I think you I think you interpreted it correctly. Yeah. All right. Anyways, let's go.
Every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these raids.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
The violence that the Palestinians engage in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal, definitionally legal.
This is like a unbelievable. This is an unbelievable clip. What the? I asked for the VOD because I didn't want to make an evaluation based off of just.
The wall was built over 2 decades ago to stop Palestinian terror attacks inside Israel after a wave of violence. But there is more than a wall to all of this. The West Bank and its people would make up the lion's share of a Palestinian state if one were to be recognized. Current political leadership in Israel does not want a Palestinian state, and the Israeli parliament just approved a motion.
Wait, what did he say? Hold on.
Which is where it gets a Palestinian state if one were to be recognized. Geographically, it's on the West Bank of the River Jordan, which is where it gets its name from.
This is like a talking point that people use, but it's not actually true. The reason why it's called the West Bank is because if you go way back to pre-Roman times when the Kingdom of Israel was there, because Jewish people were so good at, even back then, investing and getting like high rates of return on their interest, they had to create like an entire huge bank that spanned the entirety of across to the west of the River Jordan. And they
What? I can't tell if he's giving us esoteric history or if he's memeing.
called that area the West Bank, because Jews would be like, we need to go to the West Bank to make a withdrawal on all of our
Come on, man.
recent events. I'm sorry.
From
I'm done.
political leadership.
Thank God. Dude, I was only half paying attention, so he's like, dude, I'm just gonna move on. But that was crazy. I was like, wait, did I miss some like esoteric history involving the West Bank? Was there actually some financial bullshit? And then of course he's just fucking around. What an asshole.
In Israel does not want a Palestinian state, and the Israeli parliament just approved a motion to annex the West Bank. It doesn't necessarily
Biz D says you could at least acknowledge that Hasan used way more plausible deniability. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that contradicts anything I said. Hasan Piker said, yeah, I was just saying that if Gila Klein was on a raid 20 years ago, just because you're sympathetic to an Israeli Jew doesn't mean that they wouldn't be potentially a target of violence if they were in Israeli occupation. I say IDF, but they say IOF. If the IOF was illegally raiding the West Bank, then she would be a valid military target. But also, that actually leans me more into the fact that it's stochastic rhetoric, though, because who denies that? Like, is there anybody who says that when the IDF is doing military operations in Gaza and the West Bank, they can't be targeted? Has anybody ever said that ever? Like that feels like a straw man, which kind of lends me to either consciously or subconsciously, he wanted to throw Gila in there in order to press the Klein family.
really mean it'll happen, but it shows the thinking.
Like any kind of violence that Israeli settlers or the Israeli military experience.
Sorry. Chart says Ozempic hit LA like crack hit the inner city in the 80s. Bruh. That's not even like a motto or anything, but I want to write that down. That is fire. That is fire. Ozempic. Ozempic hit LA. The way crack hit black neighborhoods. Oh, that's bananas. Oh, I love that.
Experiences in the West Bank is literally legal.
Okay, this is a thing that you'll hear pro-Pali say a lot, and it's just not true, okay? There's this niche thing that they're bastardizing from international law. International law? I'm not even sure where this comes from. It might be a writing. I don't know if this is actually enshrined somewhere or like it's considered a customary rule. But the idea, the concept, okay, is that you have a right to fight against an oppressor, right? That if you're being invaded or if you're being actively oppressed by another nation, you have a right to fight against them, okay? But there are two distinct things when we talk about conducted war, all right? For those of us that follow us through our international law arc and everything, right? You have two concepts. One is jus ad bello, and the other is jus in bellum. Let me make sure I have those two different.
APAC Traders is cowardly to mute people. It's not terrorism to be America first. The tide is changing. 92% of Dems no longer support Israel, so I know politics. Thanks. Oh, this is your alt? Bye. Unknown. I'm not banning you because your politics are just like, whoa. It's whoa, you're just so smart. You're just so nuanced. Your takes are too hard for me to handle. Bah! It's because you have schizophrenia. And while that can be entertaining to fight with schizophrenics, I want to do it for my mental health, your mental health, and the mental health of my chat. I feel like we should stop interacting. You should find another chat that is more sympathetic to your schizophrenia, because I'm not. And I don't want to bully you endlessly. So I banned your alt. The mere fact that you even have an alt is already kind of telling me that you have an unhealthy association with Twitch and YouTube politics. So How about just for both of our sakes, we part ways? Unknown. How about that? All right.
Use ad. No, it's I mislost it. It's use ad bellum and then use in bello, right? Yes. Okay. Use ad bellum and use in bello. Okay. The first one just has to do with when can you go to war, right? When is it considered legal and arguably moral to go to war, right? If somebody's oppressing you or invading you, you can conduct warfare, right? That's considered just. Invading somebody for no reason would be considered unjust. That is an entirely separate concept, though, from jus in bello, which is your conduct in war.
God, guys, you're so fucking frustrating. Listen. I like Steven. I consider Steven a friend. And I know a lot of you guys are DGG, so this is going to rub some of y'all the wrong way. I'm not talking about morality, though. It was a TOS mention. DGG chat is tied to his website, so Destiny wouldn't be bad, Connor. Bad is a moral judgment. Good and bad. Legalistically, terms of service, private organizations engaging in contracts, Steven has the right to say, and by the way, I don't give a fuck. Steven has the right to say whatever the fuck he wants to say. So take the legalistic shit, take the terms of service shit, and blow it out your ass. Steven, and I love you, Fashion 40, so not you specifically, but in general, the DGG vibes where you feel like you constantly have to sweep for every single thing that Steven does. Take that vibe and blow it out your ass, okay? What I'm saying is that Steven has friends, including me, and including Z from Unfuck America, and Christopher, who I met in DC. Z and Christopher want to fundraise separate from DGG, but realistically, I think they would happily take a fundraiser stream from DGG, and they want to build a Turning Points USA version for the Democrats. And the Democrats, I hate to tell you, they're asleep at the fucking wheel. So even though this is a brilliant idea, and Z seems like a competent organizer, they're having difficulty securing funding for this idea because it's going to cost a few $1,000,000, right? So if Steven wants to be able to endlessly debate Turning Points USA characters, endlessly debate and foster a community that is national, because through Unfuck America, through National Ground Game, he would have access to endless debates, then he could have a real political effect. The same way that Charlie Kirk is ingratiated with mainstream Republicans, Steven, NGG, and UNF America could be ingratiated with the Democratic establishment. However, if you're, this is a while ago, so I want to be fair. If you have crazy sex stuff going on, if you're being accused of calling for stochastic violence against your streaming rivals, if you're making pedophilia jokes on Twitter, you're making that mission more difficult. You understand me, right? You understand what I'm saying? You're just resisting it because you like Steven. I like Steven too, but I want him to do things that make his life and the people around him's lives easier and better. Okay? Are we on the same page? Parasocially love you. Thank you for being here.
Okay? There is no jus ad bellum. There is no cause for war that can excuse bad jus in bello, which is your conduct in war. Pro-pallies always miscite this as though your right to resist makes all resistance right. That is not true. Nowhere in international law do you have the right to explicitly target and murder civilians. You cannot do that ever. It does not matter how righteous your cause for war is. You cannot do that. The idea that all people are fair targets or fair game ever, that's just never the case. Now, as part of a proportionality assessment, civilians can die as collateral damage in war, assuming you're not killing civilians for the sake of killing civilians. These are
You guys are dicks. You guys are dicks. Fast and Bulbous says, in reference to the Trebuchet comments, I heard you loud and clear. Orders confirmed. Vivek Ramazani said, make Trebuchets great again. Conservatism says, wait, don't actually do that? Bro, I'm almost done with the Trebuchet. Paul says, okay, we get it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys, you know, you're fucking with me, but there will be one schizophrenic who will try to kill Hasan, and I don't want to be necessarily responsible for that. Anyways.
Things that are permissible in international law. A lot of people don't know this, but they are. But you never, ever, ever have an unrestricted right to just kill civilians, period.
Like any kind of violence that Israeli settlers or...
Also, don't make me defend settlers, okay? But there are different types of settlers, okay? There are two different types of settlers.
I'm interested in this, so I'm going to pay a little bit more attention.
If you want to, maybe, okay? What a lot of people don't realize, the vast majority of settlers, it's like 80% or something, as I make numbers up out of nowhere. I don't know if there's a way to find this easily. The vast majority of settlers live near something called the Green Line, okay? So after the 67 war, Israel pushed into and took over the West Bank. Prior to the 67 war, okay, there was a giant war of independence for Israel. And in 1948, there were these armistice lines drawn between all the neighboring countries. The armistice line drawn around the West Bank, okay, the West Bank of the River Jordan, because Jordan occupied this for about 20 years, all right? This is the Green Line. The vast majority of settlers live along the Green Line. My understanding is, I need to not hedge, because I know more about this than all of these pro-Palestinian combined, okay? The wall that was created in the 2000s during the Second Intifada that separates Israel from the West Bank, I think it goes even into the West Bank a little bit.
Severin says, my German Shepherd is dying soon, but I watched Lolita this morning, which made me less wistful. Bruh. So, number one, I'm sorry that your dog's dying, especially when they're family members. It can be like a huge emotional hit. I don't know what Lolita has to do with that, though. Are you talking about like the movie where like a 14-year-old girl is seduced by her tutor and her tutor like either psychologically commits or kills the mom? Because let's stop watching that. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
So a lot of people might be living, well, not a lot, but there are people that live in the West Bank and might not even realize it. There are a ton of settlements that are just right along this Green Line, okay? Now, I'm not saying that necessarily makes them good or bad, but the people that live in a settlement like right along this Green Line, these people are significantly different in nature than people who live in these deep settlements, say like in Yitzhar or whatever the f it is. It's the one that I was familiar with, this guy here, right? These people out here are degenerate, subhuman, insane motherfuckers. They're out here because they're on a mission from God. They want to live out here. There's armed gates and guards everywhere. These people are the ones who are committed to the mission of New Israel, and they want to come into the Judea and Samaria and own the historic lands, okay? The people that live over here near the Green Line just got offered some really cheap housing, okay? These people over here in settlements like Yitzhar, these are the inbred who will take like goats and shit and tents and try to create new little villages inside of or around these little Palestinian towns that live in the valleys in order to build an outpost, get IDF support eventually, and then argue that they should be able to expand their currently existing settlement out here. People that live near the Green Line, they're just like, they got cheap housing, they live here, they just Israeli, they don't really think as much about this generally, okay? Not to
I'm okay with differentiating the people who are on the eastern border of Israel versus the people who are actually in the West Bank. I understand that. But David brings up a point that I think is relevant, saying Hasan thinks that all Israelis are settlers, and from them, therefore they're all valid military targets by his logic. That's actually crazy. No, I'm actually with you, David. Like, so I think that the argument goes with popular sentiment. So if Hasan starts with, well, settlers are valid military targets, and you're like, okay, well, are you talking about people in Israel proper, or are you talking about in the West Bank? Well, if you're talking to like a crazy far lefty Marxist-Leninist revolutionary who doesn't believe in states, they want to abolish states, then I think Hasan would say, oh, well, realistically, like from the river to the sea, I think that, Palestine should be free. So that will involve the dissolution and rejection of an Israeli Jewish supremacist state. And so he gets to be a revolutionary when he's hanging out with revolutionaries. But if he was talking to like a sock dem, or if he was talking to like a normie liberal, then he'll be like, oh, well, I'm really just I'm specifying about the West Bank settlers right now because they're being so aggressive and they're part of ethnic displacement of Palestinians. And so I really think we need to focus on that first, because I don't think it's pragmatic to evaporate the state of Israel, even if that should be our end goal. And so he kind of gets to have his cake and eat it too, where depending on who he's talking to, he's either communicating a level of extremeness or a level of sanity, so that he's palatable to whoever he's talking to. So I actually agree with you, David, that that's probably the rhetorical game that Hasan is playing. Solar Coaster says Destiny was trolling hate, then Tate ignored him, had his criminal cases banned from platforms down in Florida, beating up his own fans in cage fights, but Destiny never fought him. Shit. Even I know fucking Andrew Tate is a fucking rapist who's on PEDs, but that dude can fucking scrap. What's his height? Andrew Tate, height, weight. He's 6'3", bro. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. So actually, I weigh a little bit more than him. I weigh like 30 or 40 pounds more than him. But this dude can throw some fucking bombs. So you kind of got to be careful. Like, I typically like to chat shit about how I can beat up most people. However, I've seen this dude throw some fucking bombs. Like, his punches and his fucking kicks are not for the faint-hearted. So I would joke about training Steven to fight Andrew Tate, but realistically, I just wouldn't do that. Andrew Tate's a bad guy. He's a sex trafficker. He's a credibly accused rapist. He's beaten up many people. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to say he's a fucking rapist. He raped one of my friends. He raped Lauren Southern. So, fuck him. So I hope he gets incarcerated for life, and I hope he dies in prison. But yeah, I think you would be crazy to deny whether or not this dude can scrap. This dude can scrap.
Say that some settlement is okay, or that some occupation or whatever is okay. I'm just saying that there are qualitative differences between the types of people that are considered settlers, right? Not only that, but in prior negotiations that have never come to fruition, mainly because the Palestinians never give a concrete offer of what they actually want, but in prior negotiations, and I think it's generally true today, any deal that involves a two-state solution, I believe most Palestinians would be okay swapping land that would leave the majority of these big settlements intact, okay? Your big debate and argument is going to come over like Jerusalem.
True.
Where East Jerusalem is sectioned off, well, I believe at this point, I think East Jerusalem has been formally annexed by Israel, actually, which is why one of the reasons why moving the embassy down there and recognizing it from the U.S. perspective was so retarded, because we basically give them a giant thumbs up. But East Jerusalem is the one with...
I caught up with Fashion 40. I understand what you're saying, but to be honest, Connor, he's not changing unless they make a Vyvanse 220 milligrams. Steven can't control himself unless they make fucking Nazi chocolate levels of amphetamines. I'm not saying that. Fashion 40 is saying that. That's fucking funny. I'll keep pushing him gently. I'll be gentle, but I'm going to push him gently because truth be told. Okay, so tell me this wouldn't be cool. All right? Tell me this wouldn't be cool real quick. Look me in the eyeballs. I'm going to look you in the eyeballs. And while I'm looking you in the eyeballs, I would remind you, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage in chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Let's have a good stream. Now, that being said, tell me this wouldn't be fucking fire. Steven gets 10,000, 20,000 live viewers. I'm, like I said, getting between 130 and 200, and we're a few months into the job. So realistically, there's no reason why we can't grow, become bigger. Let's say that I, Steven, and other creators like Erudite, Hutch, the Live and Learn crew, Josiah, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say that we partner up with Unfuck America. We do some fundraisers. We get them some cash. They deploy to colleges across the nation, and they actually build the democratic version of Turning Points USA to the point that you effectively have college alumni, politically passionate college alumni, and 18 to 20-year-olds, 18 to 22-year-olds in perpetuity, creating social events and debate events. And not just that, we could do disaster relief. We could do volunteer efforts. We could do canvassing events. We could do all that kind of shit. And so effectively what you have is not just a passionate online community, but you have an IRL community where you can jump from state to state to state to state, centered around colleges and universities, where Stephen has endless content, endless debate content, both from TPUSA characters, but also from National Ground Game people. And then also we take the Twitch and YouTube politics community and we make it real, and we have real world electoral and disaster relief efforts. That would be the dream. That would be ideal for everyone. It would be ideal for Stephen. It would be ideal for me. It would be ideal for NGG, National Ground Game. It would be ideal for the Live and Learn crew. It would be ideal for the entire center and center left. However, if you're joking about being a pedophile on Twitter, if you're being accused of calling for stochastic violence against Hasan Piker, if your sex dramas are distracting from the mission, that's going to make that job infinitely more difficult. So, I get it. Stephen is successful because of his abrasive personality. I understand this. Can we take about 10% off of her? That way we can get some IRL shit going too. That's what I'm saying. So I hope you understand that.
Al-Aqsa Mosque. I think where the stupid cum wall is that Jews go and pray at.
LB gave up on us. Did she formally give up on us? She was in here almost every day fighting us for a while, but I think I stopped fighting her as much in chat, and then she stopped coming back.
Basically, this whole Temple Mount thing, this is a holy monument that you'd have to work out. How are you going to actually figure out who's allowed to visit, who's allowed to do what, and all this bullshit. Not to ride that Israeli dick too hard, but I will say the only time in history when all peoples have been allowed to visit their respective holy places has been when Israel has been in control of the territory, because I believe Israel brings in, I wish I could remember the name for it, someone in chat will say it. Israel brings in another entity, I believe it's Jordan, to have their security forces to kind of ensure and keep the peace in Al-Aqsa, around Al-Aqsa Mosque. Somebody can tell me what the name of this is. There's a name for this. It's like I want to say the Queef. It's not the Queef. It's not Al-Queef. There's no way that it's Al-Queef. Somebody tell me what it is. That's what's coming to my mind though. But it's something like this.
Al-Queef. Lol.
Name of Jordan Peacekeepers Temple Mount. What is it called? Is it Jordan? Am I making this up? Israel handed its administration back to the Waqf. Oh, it's Waqf. It might be Waqf, maybe. Waqf. Under the Jordanian Hashemite custodianship while maintaining Israeli security control. The Israeli government enforced a ban on prayer by non-Muslims as part of the arrangement, usually referred to as the status quo. So that means a major focal point of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Okay, there you go. The Waqf, I think, maybe. Okay. All this to say that anybody that says that, like, and I make this, no, stop hedging. I don't make this mistake sometimes. Sometimes I'll just say settlers because I'm referring broadly to different groups of people, but I think my audience hopefully knows better at this point that I don't want all Jews to be killed. This type of rhetoric, though, is insane. Sorry.
It doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen, but it shows the thinking.
Like any kind of violence that Israeli settlers or the Israel.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna, Severin, I'm gonna remove your name real quick so people don't individually attack you, but I'm gonna bring this up. Okay, Lolita movie. This movie is about this dude becoming a tutor of a 13 or 14-year-old girl and effectively ingratiating himself in the family so he can eventually bang her once he has his mom committed to a fucking an insane asylum. Okay? So I get it. There's this weird age where girls are obviously moving from being girls to being adults. And this guy is fucking perving on it, basically. And that's the fucking movie. It's perving on 13 or 14-year-old girls. Okay? That's the entire fucking movie. I don't care if it's well shot. I don't care if the director was a great director. I don't care if the acting was good. I don't care about any of this kind of stuff. What it's doing is it's reinforcing the part of your brain that is playing with the ideas of 13 to 14-year-old girls being sexually attractive. Kill that part of your brain, okay? Just eliminate it. There is, once you're past the, if you are 13 or 14 and you think a 13 or 14-year-old girl is cute, nobody gives a fuck. If you're 17 and you're dating a girl who's 3 years your junior, that's a little weird, but like nobody's going to come after you legally. They might give you like a weird look or something like that where they're like, is she mature enough for you to be dating? Like, what the fuck? But they're not going to like come after you legally, right? The second you turn 18, there are so many men and so many women who are beautiful, attractive, mature, ambitious, and worthy of your time, money, and attention, that whatever your fucking pervy instinct is to like women who are at the transition between adolescence and adulthood, just fucking stop, dude. Just fucking stop. Okay? There's plenty, and the reason why, it's not whether or not this girl is pretty, right? She's obviously like pretty. The reason why is because she's not mature. She's not mature emotionally. She's not fully mature physically. She's not mature intellectually. She hasn't achieved anything. And effectively, you're, if you continue to entertain this part of your brain, you're an ephebophile pervert. And this is the kind of shit that Alan Dershowitz specifically loved this movie. Jeffrey Epstein specifically loved this movie. Alan Dershowitz has argued for a reduction in the age of consent, likely so he could reenact this movie in real life. This entire line of thinking is what justified Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. So whatever part of like the liberal progressive, oh, we're just playing with these crazy ideas and we're not going to deny our base deny your base impulses. Deny them, okay? There are plenty of attractive women who are intellectually, physically, emotionally mature enough that it is perfectly fine for you to be attracted to them. I'm not even going to give you examples, but this should be so fucking obvious that whatever part of your personality is compelling you to continue to engage with this content as an adult, kill it. Kill that part of your personality. Find something else. Jesus Christ. I don't feel like I should have to emphasize that. Whatever. All right. Off of the ephebophilia, back to the terrorism.
Israeli military experiences in the West Bank is literally legal, okay? It is legal resistance against an occupying military force.
When Hasan says settlers, isn't he talking about the settlement of Tel Aviv? It's hard to know. Well, here he's specifying the West Bank, but like they've played this game in the past over and over again that every single person in Israel is considered an occupier or is considered a settler. When they say, Oh,
yeah. Lauren Southern's book says that Andrew Tate raped her. No, allegedly is not important. You guys don't. Okay. Libel and slander is for when you are knowingly lying or being so negligent with the way that you're discussing things that you defame someone. There are video interviews of women who have repeatedly accused Andrew Tate of physically abusing them and raping them. One of my internet friends, Lauren Southern, wrote a book saying that she was fucking raped by Andrew Tate. To the best of my training and knowledge, based off of all available information, Andrew Tate is a fucking sex trafficker and a rapist. If he wants to sue me, then he can fucking sue me. And you know what's going to be so funny about that? I'm going to pull up the BBC interviews I'm going to pull up Lauren Southern's book. I'm going to pull up his own videos of him talking about sex trafficking women using the lover boy method, and I'm just going to play it for a court. And by the way, there's hours of that content of Andrew Tate admitting to being a sex trafficker. There's fucking videos of him sexually abusing a 14-year-old girl. You're worried about defaming a fucking rapist? You're worried about defaming a fucking guy who is sexually abusing a 14-year-old girl on videotape confirmed? You guys are being pussies. Like, what are you doing? Don't give these people any latitude. Enough with the ephebophilia. Back to the terrorism.
F for Israeli occupation force. They're referring to the entirety of Israel. They're not just referring to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. You can ask them, and they'll be honest with you about that. When you say occupying or the occupation, are you referring to only the West Bank and Gaza? Then most of them at this point, I think, will be honest. The ones that are the ideological ones will say, well, technically all of Israel is kind of an occupation. They'll say that. And they might just say, it's a little bit worse in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. But it really all is. When they say things like apartheid, so you'd say, would you say it's only apartheid in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip? No, they won't say that. They'll say the entirety of Israel is an apartheid state. I think, is it Amnesty International, like even has that position? No, it's not. It's the blue site. What am I thinking of?
Fast and Bulbous for $5. Israel-Palestine is so boring. Can we get U.S. versus Mexico round 2? Deep down, it's what we yearn for. Agreed.
I feel like it's blue. It's not this one. This is the yellow. These guys have the yellow. Amnesty International.
Larry Hutchinson says, not asking for all the details, but I never heard that Tate did that. When did this happen? Is she pressing charges? I hope they lock him up. So, okay. Lauren told me in 2022, this would have been the Baltimore shoot. She said, oh yeah, I've hung out with Tate before and he roofied me and blah, 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 blah. And, I was lucky that I had good friends there who were able to get me out of the situation. That's what she told me. She didn't tell me that she got raped, but guess what? A lot of women don't like to talk about their rapes, okay? So when it came out in her book that because she always hung out with all the schizo, dissident, right-wing people. So when it came out in her book, like, oh, well, Andrew Tate's a credibly accused rapist, and we hung out, and he drugged me, and you can guess what happened next. I don't want to talk about it. The implication to me is that Andrew Tate fucking raped Lauren Southern. Now, whether or not that happened, I don't fucking know. I'm not Lauren Southern. I'm not there. But I have the BBC interviews. I have Lauren Southern saying that. I have the most recent video where he was dating a girl in LA and beat the shit out of her. Dude, fuck this guy. Like, seriously, like, this guy deserves to be at minimum incarcerated, if not euthanized by the state. So no, I'm not playing this fucking don't sue me optics game. Please sue me. Please bring a frivolous lawsuit. I won't even hire a lawyer. I'll just show up with endless tapes of you admitting that you're a fucking sex trafficking piece of shit. Randy says, I don't think she's pressing charges. I don't think she's pressing charges either, but she did make a police report in the jurisdiction like within a week. So that would be a matter of public record, whether or not she made a report that she was drugged and or assaulted. Wowman542 says, hold a charity auction so whoever bids the highest gets 5 undisturbed minutes with bad empanada in a boxing cage will solve world hunger. Bruh, I would do that charity all day. Anyways, quick shill before we move on. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage in chat, comment for the comment gods, watch the VODs, love the VODs, enjoy the VODs. Super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Parasocially love you for being here. Thank you for flying Counterpoints Airlines.
It might be Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch.
Ooh, Numinax became a member. Thank you, King.
Apartheid Israel. Yeah, these guys. So, and Amnesty International probably says it's an apartheid as well. But so the entire state is an apartheid state.
I cannot repeat this enough. Just like any kind of violence that the Israeli occupying force experiences in the Gaza Strip is actually, once again, totally legal and totally moral resistance.
That is insane to say when parts of the violence for October 7th related to the mass slaughter of civilians, and I mean, he'll deny any rapes happened, I guess, but I mean, and also the rape and sexual assault, but also just in definition, what he's saying, all violence is acceptable. That's not true. That is not true. You can't do that. That's not true. That's not justified under any international law anywhere. It's just not true.
By the
Numanak says, what the fuck? I just subbed and I want to unsub. Too late now, brother.
Palestinians. Doesn't matter if they're the Al-Aqsa Brigade. Doesn't matter if they're a part of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Doesn't matter if they're
Like Al-Aqsa Brigades is the name. I don't know why he's not just saying.
The 1961 by Kubrick? Bruh. Is it any different? 1962 Lolita. Look how it pops up. 1962 Lolita. Well, at least she almost looks like an adult. That's nice. Nope. Still got the 13 to 14-year-old vibes. Still got the vibes. Also, Numanax, you want to unsub because I did an anti-ephibophilic rant? That's interesting. Is it a French movie? Because that would explain it. Middle-aged literature professor who develops an infatuation with an adolescent. It stars James Mason as Humbert, Shelley Winters as Mrs. Hayes, Pete Sellers as Quilty, and Sue Lyon in her film debut as Dolores Lolita Hayes. The novel was considered unfilmable when Kubrick acquired the rights around the time of U.S. publication, owing the restrictions impossible by Hays Code 34-68. Kubrick and producer James B. Harris were compelled to tone down the pedophilic elements that were central to the novel's narrative. Sue Lyon was 14 years old at the time of filming and played a 13-year-old girl at the time of Humbert's seduction. So no, it's still a fucking movie about ephebophilia / pedophilia. What the fuck, man? Just stop. Just stop. Why? What? Why am I? What is it? Neverax. Why are you? Because you said like, oh, or Numanax. Excuse me, Numanax. Why did you say that you didn't? You were like, oh, I just subbed. I want to unsub. Is it because we're talking about spicy content, or is it because I went on an anti-pedophile rant? I must know. I must know.
Saying Hamas, but Al-Aqsa Brigades is the military faction of Hamas. Palestinian Islamic Jihad was the other like governing entity there, I think, or party, I guess. The second largest from the no wait, hold on, wait, I just made that up. No wait, is Palestinian Islamic Jihad is Al-Qassam Brigades? No, Al-Aqsa Brigades is Hamas and Al-Qassam. no, Al-Qassam Brigades.
Yeah. I'll watch the Steven Seagal version. Absolutely. Absolutely, we'll watch the Steven Seagal version.
Is Hamas and Al-Quds Brigade? Is Palestinian Islamic Jihad, I think? Wait, let me check. Al-Quds Brigade is, hold on, this should be, I think, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Sometimes people abbreviate this as PIJ. And then Al-Qassam Brigades is, wait, Al-Aqsa Brigades. Is this a new thing created to describe the people that did October 7th? Because they call October 7th, don't they call that Al-Aqsa Flood? Isn't that the name?
Yes, Al-Aqsa is the mosque that's in Jerusalem. They called it the Al-Aqsa Flood. Yes.
That they gave it?
DFL legal and total violence, any kind of violence that the Israeli occupying force experiences in the Gaza Strip is actually, once again, totally legal and totally moral resistance by the Palestinians. Doesn't matter if they're the Al-Aqsa Brigade, doesn't matter if they're a part of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
Okay, yeah, so he's just explicitly referring to the October
Terrorist organizations. Amazing.
7th attacks. He's just justifying, he's just saying that those attacks were moral, not just legal, which they weren't. He's also saying they were moral, which they weren't.
Doesn't matter if they're DFLP, PFLP, or even former Fatah militants.
DFLP and PFLP, these are considered terrorists by everyone. You remember when Bad Bunny got banned from Twitch? Where's the picture of her? It's because she was wearing, it was either PFLP or DFLP bandana. What am I typing? Maybe it was a PFLP one? I don't remember what she was wearing. Does anybody have the picture of her when she got banned? Oh, Kira Chats. Maybe I do that. Maybe Kira Chats banned Twitch. She got perma-banned for this, for supporting terrorism. I believe it's been a while, but for things like, I think it's called, was it Black September? When Palestinians were...
Noonan Star. You don't say crazy shit enough for me to ban, but you do say crazy shit all the time. This idiot is opining on something he does not understand. Read the book, then maybe you can condemn it. Dude, reading Mein Kampf, but shaking my head the entire time so people know that I think it's bad. That's you. You're reading Lolita, but you're shaking your head the entire time so people know that you think it's bad. Dude, that's so funny. That's so funny to me. You think 99% of people who are reading that book are like, oh, wow, this isn't titillating at all. Like, yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah. You go ahead and read Lolita, but shake your head just so everybody knows that you think it's bad. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, it wasn't just this. I believe it was the PFLP that was hijacking planes.
Yep, Lisa Lopez. Epstein's plane was literally called the Lolita Express. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
I think like the following summer here or whatever. Let me see if I got this. Palestinian plane hijackings. I want to say this in the 70s. Done too long for this. Black September to the Olympic attacks. Yeah, I think that was just done by the PLO though. But we just kind of forget that, okay? It is what it is. It's history, okay? But yeah, I think that was the PLO proper, right? It was the PFLP, okay, did this plane hijacking. There was a while where Palestinians were just hijacking planes to fuck up. I mean, yeah, but this is just a terrorist group, okay? Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, and the DFLP, which I think is the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. These are like super commie socialist groups. I don't mean that just derisive.
The reason why I'm engaging more with chat instead of engaging with the content is because so far all I've seen is Hasan did apologia for terrorism. Destiny is running down that he's specifically calling out terrorist organizations who would be justified in resisting IOF and settlers. And then he's just proving that not only are these terrorist orgs, but all the language flows together in order to justify murdering Israeli civilians. Specifically settlers, because that's what happened on October 7, 2023. They didn't just shoot the military-aged males, which would be a step in the right direction, but still horrific. They didn't just shoot, armed IDF or armed settlers. They shot men, women, and children, right? So this is Hasan Piker very easily making excuses for terrorist organizations, and then Hasan Piker's chat has the balls to try to defend him, right? Like, seriously, fuck Hasan, fuck his audience.
Well, I do mean that insultingly, but also that this is, I believe, how they identified everything. But like, Bad Bunny got banned, I think, just for wearing one of these bandanas. So it's crazy to hear Hasan just openly support the groups. That's wild to me.
Okay, by the Palestinians, the occupying force experiences in the Gaza Strip is actually, once again, just like any kind of violence,
Numenac says, "Oh, okay. He's gonna think I'm anti-pedo." Yeah. I did think you were a pedo for a second, but that's okay. That's okay. You know, we have some Lolita enjoyers in chat apparently.
So the Israeli occupying force experiences in the Gaza Strip is actually, once again, totally legal and totally moral resistance by the Palestinians. Doesn't matter if they're the Al-Aqsa Brigade. Doesn't matter if they're a part of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Doesn't matter if they're DFLP, PFLP, or even former Fatah militants. Okay?
Look at Numenax, bro. Oh, Numenax just got a trial by fire. What is it? Walt yelling in car. This is Numenax. He's watching me. It's 10:58. It's 11:05. I'm 7 minutes behind. And he's like, no, Connor, I'm not a Lolita fan. Oh, shit. Numenax fucking catching strays. Okay. So for those of you who are new, thank you for being here. The way that it works is I actually like I do watch the content obviously, and sometimes I'll get in like a crazy rant hole, but unfortunately I just agree with Steve in a substantive degree that Hasan is a terrorist apologizing piece of shit. So I don't have much to add. And so what I do while I'm listening to content is I actually scroll through my chat and I read as much of chat as possible. And so I'm typically 5 to 20 minutes behind. And so as a result, I'm reading your chat in chronological order. But it actually does cause these like weirdly funny moments where Numinax says, damn, don't know, I just subbed, I want to unsub. And I was like, wait, because I'm criticizing Lolita? And then effectively like, he has to wait 20 minutes for me to catch up with him being like, no, I just don't like this discourse. You know what? I'm going to show you one other thing too. This is you. You got visited by the discourse. So not only are you screaming in the back of the van, but this is you. You have been visited by the horse disc, the discourse of discourse. Poor guy. Poor Numinax. What a trial by fire he's gone through. My apologies.
Is perfectly legal, perfectly valid, and perfectly moral.
Like none of those three things are true. Valid, I guess, maybe whatever the valid means, but
Okay, 100%. This is not like this is not a gray area. This is black and white. Okay, it doesn't get more black and white than this. Israel's in the wrong. Israel is actually engaging in an apartheid.
Israel is in the wrong. Israel is engaging in apartheid,
Which is a crime in and of itself.
which is a crime. They believe that apartheid exists everywhere, right? Human Rights Watch, probably Amnesty International, everybody else says it's an apartheid all over Israel.
Doing a genocide in Gaza and an apartheid in the West Bank. Two crimes in and of itself.
He says a genocide in Gaza and he says an apartheid in the West Bank. But if you ask them, they will say, well, no, all of Israel is an apartheid state. They will say that every time, guaranteed, bet my life on it.
And every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in
Both the settlers and the Israeli occupying force. Okay, so every single.
Oh my God, guys, stop defending it. McDevin says, Cotter, you're not supposed to sympathize with the main character, Hubert. His selfishness causes him not to see Dolores as an object, not a person. You're doing the thing. You're doing the, I'm reading Lolita, but I'm shaking my head the whole time. So they know that I think Hubert is a bad guy. How about just stop reading pedo fanfic? How about that? McDevin says you're unironically acting like someone who won't watch American History X because the main character is a neo-Nazi. Dude, but that's the point. How is American History X used nowadays? Okay, listen. I love American History X. I think it's an excellent film. And in the same way that you think Lolita is an excellent film or think Lolita is an excellent book. However, how do people use American History X nowadays? They use it as Nazi propaganda. They cut out the parts where he goes to prison and makes a black friend. And then he's like, hey guys, I can't be a Nazi anymore because I never thought that black people, like one black guy might be nice. My entire Nazi ideology has been undone by the fact that a black guy was nice to me in prison, which is like also the dumbest way. Like obviously like de-radicalization can come from exposure, but at the same time, like what do people actually post? They post videos of the kid being a fucking asshole and harassing black kids and being a Nazi in school. And then they also post videos of this guy. What is the movie most famous for? It's most famous for Edward Norton being fucking jacked and curb stomping two black guys and fucking killing them by breaking their teeth and necks on the curb. That's what this video is, or this movie is most famous for. So yeah, you can say, hey bro, like I really like American History X. I think its de-radicalization mission is actually dope. Like you could totally say that. But I'm going to say 80%, 90% of people who watch American History X now, they're people who just cut out the Nazi parts so they have pro-Nazi propaganda. So yeah, the same way that you can say, well, you know, I watched Lolita and I actually got the message that ephebophilia is bad. Well, number one, you should probably already know that ephebophilia is bad. Number two, probably 80% to 90% of people who watch Lolita on repeat, They have something fucking psychologically wrong with them where they want to play with the idea of being in love with a 14-year-old girl. They're not watching it constantly because they think ephebophilia is bad. They're watching it constantly because they want to play with the idea of ephebophilia in their mind. So, yeah, stop. Stop. Okay? Okay? It could be an excellent piece of art. Still pedophile shit.
Single citizen in Israel, besides Arabs and there, I think some sect of Judaism, some religious sect, used to be exempted from military service. I think that might have gotten overturned
No, I don't have to read it. I can hate it from afar.
kind of recently.
In the West Bank, doesn't matter if it's your favorite
Wowman 542 says, let's get JBP to talk about the literary value of Lolita, and we'll see if that changes Connor's tune. Yeah, I'll start calling my dad a fucking pedophile. My digital dad. If he's like, man, Lolita's just the best book ever written, then I'll be like, okay, Dad, you're a fucking pedophile. Shut the fuck up.
podcast,
He says in the West Bank, they do extend this, right? We had the baby settlers thing. All of Israel is an occupying entity.
there's like a wife that participated in these raids, and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcast, there's like a wife that participated.
Speaking of Ryle Kittenhouse, we're actually talking about how Lolita is bad, Ryle Kittenhouse. But he's like, counterpoint sweeping for minor abuse, counterpoint sweeping for minor abuse, counterpoint sweeping for minor abuse. Hey, Ryle Kittenhouse, didn't you beat the shit out of one of your former partners? Didn't you get arrested for domestic battery? You know, riddle me that real quick before I ban you. Yeah. West Coast girl. Hey, try not to catch a fourth felony. Yeah, aren't you like a multi-time felon? Aren't you somebody who got fucking arrested for domestic battery? And you're in here fucking throwing elbows? All right, I'll see if the wrenches get to you before I do.
In these raids, the violence that the Palestinians.
So I have no idea why you're calling out a U.S. citizen. Well, I do know why.
Because it's stochastic terrorism.
There's this myth that's passed around that Hila was involved in like violent night terror raids against Palestinians in the West Bank because of a story that she told going on. I think it was some night raid or whatever, or some
Fable. Damn. DGG ephebophiles catching strays, bro. Fable says, I'm anti the people who moralize about pedos. I think if y'all yell pedos at your hard drive, your hard drive needs to be checked first. Okay, cool. If you jerk off to kids, you're a fucking pedo. I love how this is like supposed to be like an anti-terrorism video, and effectively we just have DGG ephebophiles fucking outing themselves. Look, so desktop, no porn. Downloads, no porn. Okay, documents, no porn. Pictures, no porn. Thumbnails, gun designs, more thumbnails for Warhammer shit. Music, no porn. Videos, no porn. This is all the shit that I do for my work. These are all video files that are for videos that I'm creating. And look, none of them involve weird titles involving horses or children. These are all exclusively fucking things related to work. So, no, wrong. And by the way, you could do the same thing on my cell phone right now. You could literally go through every single folder and I wouldn't give a shit. You know why? Because I don't make excuses for fucking ephebophiles and pedophiles. And I don't engage in ephebophilic or pedophilic behavior, you fucking freaks. So if I lose 2 or 3 DGG members today because you guys are fucking pedo and ephebophile and lolicon apologists, no offense, but go fuck yourselves. Okay? Grow up. If you're over the age of 18, stop jerking off to teenagers. This is actually like, it's no longer an anti-terrorism segment. It's an anti-pedophile segment. If you're fucking jerking off to kids or jerking off to teenagers and you're over the age of 18, grow the fuck up. The only way that a 14-year-old should be the object of a sexual desire is if it's from another 14-year-old. Okay? Because they're growing up and they're figuring out their hormones and all that kind of shit. If you're over the age of 18, stop sexually objectifying people under the age of 18. It's actually that fucking easy. Okay? There's plenty of 18-year-olds, there's plenty of 19-year-olds, there's plenty of 20-year-olds who are physically adults, but mentally quite immature. and there's plenty of 20-year-olds, but people between the age of 20 and the age of 25 who are both mentally, emotionally, and physically mature, who should be the objects of your sexual desire. And if you are over the age of 18 and you continue to make teenagers the object of your sexual desire, you are sexually and socially stunted, and you need to fucking stop. Okay? Get help. Stop. Get help. Okay? This community isn't for you. I don't know what part of like American patriotism, neoconservatism, and never Trump republicanism you thought was going to be a phoebophilic. That's more the MAGA. That's more the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. That's more the dissident right wing part of the party. They're the ones who like to fuck teenagers. This is the normal. This is the normal part of the center. This is the normal part of liberals. This is the normal part of neoconservatives and moderate Republicans. We don't enjoy encouraging people to engage in the most degenerate behavior possible. So if you thought this was going to be a safe community for you, you were wrong. And you're welcome here if you change. But if you don't change, I'm going to be actively hostile to you. Okay? Stop being a fucking pedophile. It's actually super easy.
Visiting some Palestinian thing in the West Bank or whatever, and the mythos that gets shot around in these weird pro-Pali communities is that she was like basically part of this like torture group, or they were just running around the West Bank and capturing people and killing them. And there's no evidence of any of that. Nobody's ever posited anything there that seems even remotely credible. This is just like the memes that they tell about Hila, kind of like the child killing cartoons or whatever. Is this unhinged tirade some sort of damage control because hardcore lefties got butthurt and now he's cranking up crazies to placate them? No, it is not. People keep spreading that rumor around because I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's Dan or somebody else that digs up like old clips of Hasan to post or whatever. It's annoying because people don't know the timeline on this.
Solar Coaster says, I'm watching your mental breakdown, amuses me. Cool. What part am I wrong on?
But Hasan said this all on his own. This was 4 days ago. Now, I don't know why this is just getting posted now on LSF, but this came up 4 days ago, which I believe was before he gave that interview. I don't know why it's just getting posted now, but
engaging in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal, definitionally legal.
that is not true. No part of that statement is true. No part of that statement is true. Okay. Destiny, about the Hasan clip, would you concede that you could emotionally justify? You can emotionally justify anything, bro. What are you talking about? What a strange phrase. Targeting civilians, if you grant that it's a genocide and apartheid. For example, most people will be fine if the Jews killed Nazi civilians during World War II. Since you're the one who keeps insisting that international law is meaningless in that region, the emotional argument is more relevant. No. You can't use the international law argument on me. That's your argument. Because Israel already accepts that it's not going to be treated fairly by any of the neighboring people that fight against them. So you can't go.
Hey, Noonan Star, you're getting really close to a fucking ban. You think it's unintelligent? Like, if you want to read fan fiction about sexually abusing 14-year-old girls, so you can realize that sexually abusing 14-year-old girls is bad, you do you, whatever. But you're getting pretty close to a fucking ban. It's not stupid to realize that people use art for its inverted purpose. So yeah.
Oh, well, if you're saying that it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. International law is not applied to the enemies of Israel. Period. It is never applied to their enemies. If it was, all of them.
Good grief, Griff is nailing it. Your chat is watching Lolita the way that other people read Playboy magazines. Yeah.
Would be considered rule breakers. The ICC did issue arrest warrants on the head of the Politburo for Hamas was I'm trying to remember the names. Was it Ismail Hania or whatever? He's dead. Rip Bozo. It was Sinwar, who got freed, I believe, in 2014 in that Gilad Shaad, whatever that Jew's name, prisoner exchange, who was the leader of the Gaza Strip. He's dead. Rip Bozo, Sinwar.
Okay, Noonan, this community isn't for you. It's not for you. Fuck off. Listen. Fuck off.
And then Mohammed Daif, I believe, was the leader of Al-Qassam brigades for the Hamas people, and he's dead, I believe. Rip Bozo, right? Those three. So all three, I think they issued arrest warrants for all three of those guys, right? They're all dead now. Rip. Wait, I missed the rest of that. But also, I don't think people would be okay with Jews killing German civilians. I'm not sure if they would be. I mean, like maybe they would be because like the Holocaust was so horrible, but I don't think that I'm not aware of that ever happening. Did it? I'm not aware of that ever happening if it did.
AKA Batisoy says you can't brag about a work PC. Bro, I could do the same thing on my phone. I can do the same thing on my laptop. I can do the same thing. I don't have a dedicated goon computer because I'm not a fucking freak. So, no, sorry. That you're not going to... This isn't like a Jungian shadow thing. This isn't like a... This isn't like where... you know, somebody is obsessed with a topic so much that there ends up being like a dark part of their personality that they indulge in. Nope. You know what I do with the dark parts of my personality? I starve them. Okay? I starve them. Okay. Hold on. I'll be right back. You guys are calling me out for having a second computer. Let's do it.
Okay? It's just the truth, straight up. It doesn't matter that they look to be in garb that makes you think that they're in the right. Okay?
And right now, life is...
Like, I don't understand how people, it's just so cucked that like we're at a time point now where the ground is so fertile for anti-Semitism in the United States because the left, the far left, and the far right are both totally on board with it. Now, you have your stalwart defense and the old boomer right, because they all love Israel. You kind of have this mid-left boomer defense of Israel, although the Palestinian stuff is weighing greatly on Jewish sympathy.
Let's do it. You guys think that I'm Vosh. I'm not Vosh. Okay? Don't know if you can see it. Here's an Adobe Acrobat thing. Here's the Finder folder. Look at all my recent files. Okay? Screen recording of a TV show. Marine reacts to something. Screen recording of a TV show. 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 Screen cap. Screen cap. Screen cap. Screen cap. Applications. No dark web. Deep web explorer so I can look at weird goon shit. Desktop. Video recordings of marine shit for a breakdown. Documents. Nothing goony in here. Literally crazy schizo fucking drawings for 3D printing projects. Downloads. Thumbnails and videos for video project. This is my second computer. I don't have any crazy goon stuff on here too, and I don't have another computer. You guys don't get it. You guys don't get it. You're so used to everybody being a fucking freak that you think that you have to be a freak to be on the internet. No. You can just, guys, I hate to say this to you, but you can just enjoy sexual attraction to adults. You can be sexually attracted to adults. I don't know if you guys knew that. You could try that instead of various fairy tale creatures or various animals or post-adolescent children. You could try just being sexually attracted to adults. It's actually this cool thing that people over the age of 30 did, you know? Then you can also just not be an antisocial pro-terrorist freak. This has effectively become like an anti-terrorism, anti-gooner segment now. It's more like Destiny is giving you the anti-terrorism propaganda. I'm giving you the anti-gooning propaganda. Stop being a terrorist. Stop making excuses for terrorist organizations. Stop gooning to weird shit. Stop it. Just stop it. Be normal. Like, be normal. Be normal. Be normal. It's actually not hard. It's not very hard at all. If you have a dark impulse, and by the way, here's something that I'll admit to. I have dark impulses. I have homicidal impulses. I have dark thoughts. And you know what I do to those thoughts? I say, wow, that's bad. I shouldn't indulge in that. Instead of being like Max Carson and diving into the worst impulses of my fucked up caveman brain, I go, wow, that's a bad part of me. That's not pro-social. That's not good for me. It's not good for my family. It's not good for humanity. It's not good for life. So I'm going to take that thought. I'm going to say, wow, that's fucked up. And I'm going to push that thought to the side. and I'm going to try to think about more positive things. Jesus Christ. It's not hard, guys. It's not hard. Stop gooning. The only reason why I'm unironically, oh, sorry, I need to add Stephen back to the thing. The only reason why I wasn't showing my taxes folder, I could Google it, but I think that I might actually have taxes on this computer, and they might be actual tax documents. These are actual tax returns. So 2020 tax return, 2021 tax return, benefit summary, invoice, VA, PL work. So the only reason why I'm not showing you these files is because they're unironically tax information with my personal information on it. Fashion 40 says, why they got to be DGG? I don't know, because half of my audience is DGG. I also don't really cross-pollinate with like Vosh or anybody else.
In the United States, right? We've already had assassinations of Jewish people in the U.S. for being Jewish. I don't understand why this type of is allowed to proliferate on this platform, just completely and totally unobstructed and fearlessly too. The thing that always irritates me, these people, it's like every time I was on Twitch, when I would say anything, I'm like, am I about to get banned? I gotta be careful on this. These guys are fearless. It's actually fearless that he could just like outwardly praise terrorist groups, outwardly praise terrorist actions, and then outwardly say that terrorism is justified for whatever XYZ reason on all Israeli citizens. That's just wild to me. Destiny, you have records of the leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto Resistance directly speaking of how they don't want to attack Polish citizens in their raid.
Obama says, what if Kristi Noem is the object of my desire? Well, at least she's an adult, right?
Out of the ghetto for weapons and supplies. Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, you also had Nelson Mandela and the ANC talking about how explicitly they didn't want to just start murdering civilians because it would make their movement look horrible. And you have MLK, you know, saying that like we have to do active like nonviolent protests, and we have to have a commitment to nonviolence because it makes us look bad if you get violent. Like, yeah, every successful group in history has done this. One thing that's not talked about enough, and if we're going to bring race to this all the time, then I think maybe we need to take a good look at this. Hasan is from Turkey. Turkey is an ethno-state. Turkey was explicitly created in an ethno-state. The fall of the Ottoman Empire in the after 1917, when they began to genocide all of the Armenians and when they ethnically cleansed all the Greeks away, they did that with the explicit goal of creating their new ethno-state after the fall of the Ottoman Empire because they wanted their own country with their own ethnic group. And today they continue to engage in that sort of genocidal ethnic cleansing in intent against the Kurdish people in the southeast of the country. So I think the fact that you have a guy that comes from Turkey, which is a genocidal colonial state, they are currently engaged in that type of action. And the island of Cyprus to the south of Turkey, they're currently engaged in genocidal actions against the Kurds. Remember how they said, oh, when we abandon the Kurds,
sorry, I'm actually listening to Stephen right now instead of getting one guide about a phoebophilic bullshit. So I'm just letting Stephen make a point so I can respond to it, so we can actually engage with some of the anti-terrorism rhetoric as well.
Under Trump, we didn't abandon the Kurds to Assad. We didn't abandon the Kurds to ISIS. We abandoned the Kurds to Turkey to kill. Okay, and then there was like it was like a million or more Greek citizens where ethnic cleanses were moved from Turkey because they don't want to deal with any of them. So I don't know, a guy that's coming from Turkey, whose uncle founded a network called the Young Turks, which was the name of the group that was largely responsible for the Armenian genocide, is really weird to me. I don't know what kind of ethnic ground he can stand on to attack all Israelis or all Jewish people, mentioning the Ela Klein.
Okay, so I think we can say both are bad, right? We can say that the Gazan operations are bad. We can also say that like Turkish ethno-supremacy is bad. We can also say that Hasan is a hypocrite for not calling out Arab, Turkic, Hazara, Iranian, Persian, Afghan, Pashtun, Tuareg, Bedouin, Arabian ethno-religious supremacist issues. I think I can get behind that. So effectively, if there's anything that you guys are getting out of the content today, it's don't be a terrorist and don't be a pedophile. That's what I'm hoping to enforce in my community. Boog says, do you make a distinction between the pedos who act on it and the ones who don't? Yeah, of course. But at the same time, pedophiles who don't act on it should still resist their compulsions. They should realize that it's something fucked up with their childhood where they got abused, or it's something fucked up with their genetics where their hormonal attractive shit just got like crossfired wrong. And so as a result, they should try to be as normal as possible and they shouldn't abuse anyone. And neuroplasticity, guys, like seriously, this is something that you guys, Chud Logic, we had a fight about this in reference to food shops. This is something that legitimately pisses me off about all the fucking, like, Fable's probably going to catch a ban in a minute because they keep making like lolicon apologia in my chat. Neuroplasticity, also known as neuroplasticity or simply plasticity, is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. This ability allows the brain to adapt to new situations, learn new skills, and recover from injuries. It's the brain's capacity to change and adapt in response to experience, whether through functional or structural changes, and it's not limited to childhood, but continues throughout life. What you think is what you are. What you think is what you become. And so if you guys, not you guys, I guarantee you out of 165 people here, 160 of you guys, I'm not talking about. But if you continue to reinforce the lolicon, pedophile, ephebophile connections in your brain, you are going to become more of a pedophile and more of an ephebophile. Whereas if you just say, hey, this is not a healthy pro-social sexual thing for me to be engaged in, and just because I'm free to do it within a free society that hasn't legally prohibited it, it's still antisocial and it's still bad for me, so I'm going to stop. You're going to starve that part of your brain and you're going to refocus your brain on different things. Like, I don't know, being sexually attracted to adults or not being a fucking terrorist, right? So how about all the fucking Lolita, pedophile, ephebophile fucking apologists in my chat? How about you guys just fucking stop and start focusing on adults and adult shit and stop being pedophiles and don't be a terrorist supporter, right? Should be easy. Should be relatively easy. Just stop.
Who is an American citizen living in the United States of America, and then not have to address or reconcile with the genocidal history of his bloodline and his the country that his parents come from, which, when I believe his dad is like a founding.
Solar Coaster says, Valor, you're talking about yourself staring into a camera and your mind is going crazy. No, there's 160 people here and we're having an ongoing conversation, Solar Coaster. So if you want to, I don't know, either engage in the conversation or explain an actual objection or criticism that you have, or if you don't and you just keep saying like, haha, bro is going off, lol, I'm just going to ban you too. I don't need you. Yeah, Warhammer. Unironically, what's in the Dark Eldar folder? That's true. That's a good point, actually.
Member of some far-right political party. I think. I don't know as much about that. But like, that's crazy to me. And maybe it does need to be addressed more, that if we're going to bring up like the ethno-bend or the ethno-religious or the
Dami says, just as DGG, we're getting painted with a broad brush. Sure. I think 99% of DGG is not pedophiles or ephebophiles or Lolita apologists. Okay. However, you have to understand the Mr. Girl arc happened. There are lolicon apologists and pedophile and ephebophile apologists within that community, and that not all of them were purged. Fable says, Connor, the fact that you have to constantly keep saying this is weird if you're an adult being anti-pedo is like saying I'm anti-bad things happened, obviously. Who are you preaching to exactly? You, Fable. Anime PFP making lolicon arguments. I'm preaching to you and all the people around you. When you start making pro-lolicon arguments, you should be called out and forced to grow the fuck up. Bella says, I don't think he's paying attention to the video. You're right. Terrorism is bad. What do you want me to say?
No nationalist tendencies of Israel, maybe more attention needs to be paid from where people like Hasan come from and what his ideology is. Because I've never heard him say shit about what Turkey has done in the past or what Turkey is currently doing right now. So I don't know. Maybe that's worth paying attention to, but Jesus Christ, these statements are unhinged. Anyway, did Hasan support Israeli embassy workers in the U.S. being murdered too? My recollection of that, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm referring to a different event. Is I thought that Hasan said that when that happened, that it was a false flag. His chat was spamming hearts as he read the shooter's statement. Wait, really? More than 200,000 Israelis, according to the organizers, protested tonight in Tel Aviv, calling for a deal for the release of the hostages and ending the war in Gaza. It's just so, like, God, I can't wait until you guys all nuke each other. I can't wait until this stupid region just sinks into the ocean. There will be no hostage deal, okay? Because the thing that I said before is that both sides are always incentivized to fight forever with each other. Okay, Netanyahu will not accept, from my understanding, will not accept a hostage deal that doesn't have the unilateral, complete and total disarmament and abandonment of Hamas from the Gaza Strip, right? So Netanyahu's priority is the eradication of Hamas so that he can exert another civil administrator's control over the Gaza Strip. Okay, period.
Jet X says you're getting massively one-guyed. It happens. It happens. Listen, dude, let's be real here. You know, it's 11:23. It's currently 11:36. I'm 13 minutes behind on chat. The reason why I haven't been reacting to Steven throughout this segment, which has become a mildly anti-terrorist, majority anti-pedophile, ephebophile thing, is because I do feel bad. I think it was Severin. Severin said, my dog's dying. I watched Lolita, you know, cheered me up a little bit, whatever. I don't even know if they even said that. Sorry, I knocked out my monitors. 1 second. 1 second. Just waiting for my monitors to come back. I always kick the cables and then it fucks up. Really? Don't go into standby mode. Come back, you fucking piece of shit. What are you doing? What? I clicked a button with my toe and it shut off my monitors. So anyways, let's break this down. So Severin, I've seen Severin in the chat before. I try to create a welcoming community as maximally as possible. I want as many people in CGG or COG, the COG, if you will. I want as many people in here as possible. However, what I'm not going to accept is DGG and the Twitch and YouTube political space is filled with people with Peter Pan syndrome, people who never want to grow up, underemployed, overeducated people who use the internet as a social space. Okay. And I'm happy to be your social space. I want to be your social space. I want you to hang out here. I want you to like the stream. I want you to super chat. I want you to dono. I want you to be a member. I want you to be an active part of the community. I want you to participate in chat, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm not willing to do, to the point that I'm willing to lose some community members, is I'm not going to indulge you in your Peter Pan syndrome. I'm not going to tell you that you're a liberal, so you have the right opinions on politics. And Steven is the best creator since sliced bread, so you're a part of one of the strongest and largest online communities on the planet. Good for fucking you. Okay? That doesn't mean that you can remain an emotionally, mentally, sexually stunted ephebophile. Cartoon ephebophile. Okay? It's not going to happen. So if you want somebody to reinforce your proclivities, maybe go to a fucking progressive space. They'll applaud you for being an ephebophile. If you want somebody who is neutral on your ephebophilia or lolicon consumption, go to a liberal. They'll say, oh, we're all free. Maybe even Erudite. I'm talking a little bit of shit here, but even Erudite will indulge in antisocial. She won't indulge in antisocial sexual behaviors. She will tolerate antisocial sexual behaviors from people around her. So go to a liberal, okay? They'll say, oh, honey, it's not your fault that you're a fucking freak. It's totally okay. We all have weird impulses. We all have dark impulses. But believe it or not, I'm mildly socially conservative. I think jerking off to kids is weird. I think jerking off to teenagers shows that you're socially or sexually stunted and you need to grow the fuck up. And if that's a problem for you, then this is where our relationship ends. You know, I like Severin. I hope Severin does great. I'm sorry that their dog is passing. I hope that they find some solace and some peace and some respite in this traumatic time in their life. But if they go to Lolita as a comfort movie, that's a red flag for me. If there's people in my community saying, oh, it's not that big of a deal, that's a red flag for me. And I'm not going to change. So y'all change or don't. But if you're making lolicon excuses in my chat, you're not going to stick around for long. I'll tell you that.
All right. That is a greater priority than the hostages. Hamas will not give up the Gaza Strip. And that is a greater priority for them than not having more dead Palestinians. Everybody in the West talks about this retarded. They think that both sides are whatever. I don't care. Jews are retarded on this. No offense. And or the crazy Zio ones. And the Palestinians are pro-Pali people. They don't even know what
Okay, everybody's like, why is it this? What isn't this supposed to be EHD? Number one, we keep getting more viewers, not less. Number two, let's summarize EHD real quick for the people who are like, Connor, you're not engaging with the content. Terrorism's bad. What do you want me to say? Okay. Hasan is doing stochastic terrorism against Ethan Klein and Gila Klein. Destiny called that out, arguably by making a stochastic terrorism point himself. Destiny is getting into the weeds, God bless him, for researching the organizations that Hasan is actually talking about to show you how much of a stochastic terrorist propagandist piece of shit Hasan Piker actually is. Okay? So, anyways.
Any of these countries are. So them. But yeah, everybody's incentivized to keep this going for as long as they can. Either side.
Ben Sunil says, bro, I'm sorry. Dude, okay, sorry. Sorry to the Israeli-Palestinian people. I'm going to fight who I fight.
Side could the other side, in my opinion, pretty hard if they were to step forward and make a deal. Like if Hamas were to tomorrow just release all the hostages and say, all the hostages are back to Israel, please stop attacking us, I think the international pressure, and I think domestic pressure on Israel would be huge. But Netanyahu doesn't want to give that, or Hamas doesn't want to do that because they have a bigger fight in mind. And if Netanyahu, I think, were to say, we're going to do a ceasefire and we're going to, fine, we're going to stop doing this, Hamas needs to release the hostage, it would put a lot of pressure on Hamas. Netanyahu doesn't want to do that. So come the hostages, I guess. They're either dead anyway or no one gives about them. So here's Hasan's statement on the Armenian genocide. Brings a tear to my eyes.
The Armenian genocide happened.
Okay, shut the f up.
Under the rubble for months now, despite the continual making of more rubble and repeated.
This mic is so compressed. This is a compressed upload. Whatever YouTube channel this is doing another layer of compression.
Bombing of rubble again and again, and the bombings of tents amid the rubble, like the Yemen death toll.
This is insane. Wait, so this is the manifesto of the shooter, and they're just spamming hearts in chat? To be honest, I don't know if Gaza can be rebuilt if Hamas remains in power. Bro, that can be rebuilt in 2 months, okay? It's a small area. You can pour a ton of supplies into there. You can rebuild very quickly if you want.
Starox for $2 says, Connor, the second computer comment was a bit chill. You understand that it was a bit on my end as well, right? You understand that I don't actually think that you're accusing me of having a gooning computer. I'm just going out of my way to show you that I don't have a gooning computer because I don't have a gooning computer. And people who have bad habits, they like to do this projecting thing where they're like, well, the reason why you're criticizing for me for my bad habit is because you secretly have the bad habit. And it's like, no, I don't. I actively avoid the bad habit.
The desire is there for it.
Which had been frozen at some few thousand for few years under the Saudi, US, UK bombardment before being belatedly revealed to stand at 500,000 dead. All of these figures are almost surely a criminal undercount. I have no trouble.
JetX says, we believe you. People are joking. I'm half joking.
Believing the estimates that put the toll at 100,000 or more. More have been murdered since March of this year than in the Protective Edge and Kasled put together. These are two previous sieges that Israel implemented on Gaza in the past.
That was it also. Just sometimes when Israel gets bored, they're just like, let's just siege Gaza for literally no reason.
What more at this point can one say about the proportion of mangled and burned and exploded human beings whom were children?
Also, you should always force this question on the pro-Pallies. Who has killed more Arabs? Israel or Hezbollah? Israel or Ansar Allah? Israel or insert any other Arab terrorist group that you want?
We who let this happen will never deserve the Palestinians.
Alexandra Vizishu makes a comment related to the content. I hate Hasan, but what Destiny says here about ahistorical or partially incorrect, the modern history of Turkey is far more complicated than what Destiny states. That's one of the bad things about it. Well, yeah. So one of the things that he said is like, oh, Turkey's like a modern ethno-state. But how many fucking ethnicities are in Turkey? How many ethnicities are in Turkey? Because I don't think the Turks are going to be the only ones, right? The largest ethno group is the Turks, who make up the majority. Other significant ethnic groups include Kurds, Arabs, Circassians, Armenians, Greeks, and Jews, among others. And so, yeah, like, what is it? Turks are 75% of it. Kurds are 12 to 20%. Arabs are also present. Circassians are Caucasians, people from the Caucasus Mountains, Armenians and Greeks, and other groups. And so the whole point of this is just to say that, like, I don't think Turkey is like a pure ethno state. And I'm pretty sure there's Kurds who live in the Kurdish regions who are rebellious against the central Turkish government. I'm also pretty sure that there's Kurds who live in other regions and they're not rebellious at all. And so they're tolerated and treated as like normal Turkic citizens. So yeah, so saying like it's a purely ethno-religious conflict is probably not accurate and doesn't extend enough nuance to the situation. I agree.
Forgiveness. They've let us know as much. An armed.
But Israel, at the end of the day, is a democracy for now. Elections could put someone more pragmatic, even if right wing, instead of Netanyahu. The Palis have nothing. I don't know what side you're trying to defend there, but Israel is being pushed further and further to the right every single time like this happens. And the international community's only response is to hindering the Israelis, right? One of your last big pushes to the right, one that Israel arguably still hasn't recovered from, was the Second Intifada, where Arafat sat back in his mansion in Ramallah or whatever, right? And he never put out a call to end the violence. He just sat back and watched it exploded across all of Israel because this guy couldn't do anything beyond lead a military campaign. That was all Arafat had the mind to do, right? Like, imagine playing Civ 6 and the diplomacy button is broken or whatever. All he could do is war. I don't even know if there's diplomacy button in Civ 6, but that's all he could do. And after that, I think the Second Intifada was like that was like the turning point of Israeli society being like, okay, these hate us, like, this is retarded, like nothing is ever going to change, nothing is ever going to, the international community clearly doesn't give and they don't, and Israel is correct to think that the international community does not give and I mean, all of this, the October 7th, the past 2 years, I think have proven as much the same, right? If you're an Israeli and you feel justified in hating Palestinians and that the international community is never going to come to your aid for literally anything ever and doesn't give a about anything that happens to you, then why do you give about the international community? That's the message that's sent. The message is heard loud and clear in Israel from Israelis, so it is what it is.
Action is not necessarily a military action. It usually is not. Usually it is theater and a spectacle. A quality it shares with many unarmed actions. Nonviolent protests in the opening weeks of the genocide seem to signal some sort of turning point.
Israel allowing Arafat to die an old man was one of their biggest mistakes. Well, if you're Palestinian, you think that Arafat was murdered because Israel infected him somehow with AIDS or because a killer dolphin flew through the air and exploded a bomb on top of him. So
many unarmed actions. Nonviolent protests in the opening weeks of the genocide seem to signal some sort of turning point. Never before had so many tens of thousands joined the sides of Palestinians in the streets across the West. Never before had so many American politicians been forced to concede that, rhetorically at least, the Palestinians were human beings too. But thus far, the rhetoric has not amounted to much. The Israelis themselves boast about their own shock at the free hand the Americans have given them to exterminate the Palestinians.
That's an okay analysis. I think most people are surprised that the Trump admin has effectively handed the Israelis carte blanche to do what they want to do in Gaza. Excuse me, I'm sorry for yawning in your earballs. I'm slowing down now because I'm fighting less pedos because we banned 2 or 3 people.
Public opinion has shifted against the genocidal apartheid state, and the American government has simply shrugged. They'll do without public opinion then, criminalize it where they can.
Wait, what is this picture? Wait, do you think Arafat kind of looks like the, oh God, what were they called? What were the names of the, in Halo 2, the people that led the covenant? What were they called? The prophets. Not really, maybe.
Suffocate it with bland reassurances that they're doing all they can to restrain Israel where it cannot criminalize protests outright. Aaron Bushnell and others sacrificed themselves in the hopes of stopping the massacre, and the state works to make us feel their sacrifice was made in vain, that there is no hope in escalating for Gaza, and no point in bringing the war home. We can't let them succeed. Their sacrifices were not made in vain. The impunity that representatives of our government feel at abetting the slaughter should be revealed as an illusion then. The impunity we see is the...
I like how he puts his chat in emote-only mode. He has to do it because his whole chat will be terrorist supporters.
True.
But it's still just unhinged.
Worst for those of us in immediate proximity to the genocidaires. A surgeon who treated victims of the Mayan genocide by the Guatemalan state recounts an instant in which he was operating on a patient who'd been critically injured during a massacre when, suddenly, armed gunmen entered the room and shot the patient to death on his operating table, laughing as they killed him.
This was his statements about the Jews killed outside the museum in the United States.
He's an adventurist.
Ubada Krames says, Connor, what do you think should be the penalty for people who sex with minors? They should be trebucheted into the Caribbean.
Adventurist who.
So the guy that killed these people, this was the manifesto that he was just reading. This guy's manifesto that his chat was all spamming hearts towards.
Either this is an adventurist who thought that he would get like Luigi Mangione level prominence off of this or something, or just a dude who thought that this was the best possible thing to do. But like I'm not Mr. False Flag at all, but like every single thing that he did in the aftermath of the shooting is so crazy that it's like you could not have designed a incident like this. You could not have designed a better false flag incident like this. I'm not saying it is a false flag incident at all. I'm not saying that. I think this is.
I caught you, you sons of bitches. So I caught up. Anyways, like the stream. If you like based anti-terrorism, anti-pedo content, then go ahead and share it. I'm going to go ahead and thank Larry Hutchinson for banning Fable, because realistically, if you did ban Fable, I was probably going to ban Fable, and that killed 70% of the Apologia. I still think we got a furry in chat who's doing furry Apologia and bestiality Apologia, but that's okay. They only said like one thing so far. Just in case you guys were really curious about my insights. In reference to the content we were actually watching instead of the anti-ephebiphilic pedophile arc. Terrorism's bad. Okay, guys? I don't know if you knew that. So war is bad. So killing people is bad in general, but we can oftentimes kind of like morally, parse apart people engaging in armed conflict and there being asymmetric warfare guerrillas and an armed military force, and they engage with each other with explosives and machine guns and all that kind of stuff, and then sometimes civilians get caught in the middle. That's what warfare should be. However, with terrorism typically involves the intentional targeting of civilians in order to spread propagandistic aims. And what Hasan Piker has done is he's sanitized jihadist organizations in the West Bank and in Gaza by saying that if they attack IDF forces or settlers within the West Bank or within Gaza, then that's perfectly legal, morally justifiable, et cetera, et cetera. And so we can understand that, but that was never in contention. Nobody ever said you couldn't attack IDF forces or militia settlers who have guns. Nobody ever said that. In the context of October 7, 2023, though, what we obviously saw is we saw Hamas and jihadist militias slaughtering men, women, and children. And so as a result, the question is Hasan sanitizing that narrative? And is he stochastically attempting to terrorize Gila Klein and the Klein family? My answer is yes. He's a piece of shit. I'm happy that Destiny is calling him out. I am happy that Franco called him out, Mr. Philip DeFranco. Although I guess all he really did was he set up all he really did was bring people's attention to it, but I hope it brings people's attention to the fact that Hasan's a piece of shit. And then what else am I thankful for? I'm thankful for the fact that we probably had a slight gooner purge today. Okay. Vedsunil says, can we please stop with the bullshit? Can we just ban them, please? Yeah, sure, Vedsunil. But at the same time, I want to say this to you because, you were like, hey, let me get the Discord. Hey, my Discord fucked up. And also, hey, I sent you a DM on Twitter and you're hanging out with my chat. I love you. I want you to be here every day. But if not every piece of content is going to be for everybody. So if you want a perfect Counterpoints segment where all I do is I just talk about the content and break it down, then I'll just ignore chat in general. But obviously that's not the vibe here, okay? We actually hang out. We actually talk. We actually engage with members of the community, et cetera, et cetera. That involves engaging with segments of the community that we don't like. So if there's part of the community that we need to address and we need to pull over some stones in order to find the degenerates amongst us, and either they can voluntarily leave or they can fucking get banned if they say something too gross, that's something that I'm going to participate in. I'm not just going to ignore degenerates. Okay? So I love you. I'm a disembowel. I don't know what that means. You're going to disembowel yourself? Please don't. Please don't. But anyways, Among Us? Yes, exactly. Hi, Lethal Lance. I recognize your Twitter PFP. Larry says, I have to get to work. I'll be falling back and just listening. Well, thank you, Larry. Thank you for your proactive wrench throwing. So, yes. Anyways, back to the content.
Just a one dude who is genuine in his actions and maybe, you know, a little bit brain broken, okay? But it is crazy. This was legit the worst thing that could happen to the movement? No, it's not. And you guys need to stop doing that. That's another thing that I don't like either. Stop. Have some conviction. Have conviction. Assume that your fellow man is not like a brain broken child. Okay. I ask you, does this change what Israel is doing on the ground in Gaza? Does this change the dynamic of what Israel is doing on the ground, which is an ethnic cleansing campaign? If the answer to that is no, then stop leaning into a nihilistic attitude. Stop leaning into a pessimistic attitude. Either this is an adventure.
Why not?
So, Ved Sunil says, I'm going to shut my bitch ass up. You don't need to. You're infinitely less annoying than Afiba Files. Hedonic Treadmill says, Larry, me too. Unfortunately, got to go feed 80 lovely senior citizens. Well, good luck. I'm happy that you're doing that, Hedonic Treadmill, either for employment or volunteering. That's great. Anonymous Chatter says, Connor, how do you feel about anime horse girl racing? It takes the internet by storm. I think I'm going to kill myself rather than engage with that chat. Ghoul says, Hasan isn't that bad, frankly. He says a lot of stupid shit, but so far he hasn't been wrapped up in any major sex scandals like sexting a 17-year-old sending her nudes of your friend you just had sex with. Wow. Interesting observation, Ghoul. Good one. Good one. Instead, Hasan Piker, you guys just made this a sex segment. Yeah, instead Hasan Piker went to a Diddy party. He went to Club Artemis. He paid members of the proletariat for their sexual services, and that Club Artemis was raided later for tax evasion, sex trafficking, and being involved with an American biker gang. But good thing Hasan Piker didn't sext anybody. Good thing he didn't make homemade porn videos. Good thing he just banged sex trafficked prostitutes. You know, good for him. Good for him for going to a Diddy party. You know, at least he didn't sext. At least he didn't sext anybody or make homemade pornography. Damn, bro. Anyways,